How's it going, guys, and welcome back to yet another Wizard101 video. I'm your host, Frenzy Gamer, and today I just wanted to talk about something that essentially isn't necessarily talked about too much, and there's for a good reason. But today's video should have been about the gear sets, specifically from like the Primeval Horde pack, and how it basically killed off variety in pets and mounts, you know, etc, etc, and also as to why it's a problem in the first place. But that's gonna probably be like a future video. It's not gonna be like a Rant Tavern video, because essentially Rant Tavern is just like the most minimal of editing, the most minimal of, like, you know, analyzing, the most minimal of just anything. It's just so that it's a little bit easier for me to, you know, edit, and also it allows me to still kind of make content that is fairly interesting that you probably wouldn't have seen as an analytical video, just because there wasn't necessarily too much to talk about it in terms of the analytical standpoint. So this, however, is definitely something that will fit in Rant Tavern, and I think this will be a very interesting topic. So if you guys are seeing it Sunday, it's because I basically did this last minute, because I did make a video about the, you know, the little gear sets, but I was not proud of it. Even for a Rant Tavern video, I wasn't proud of it, so I decided to just kind of scrap it all together and just make something totally different. And that is definitely going to be a little bit more of an analytical video, so a little bit more of like an outline, a script, and everything. But for today's video, we will be talking about the treasure call vault, and this is why I'm in the game updates for 2019. Now, this is one of the spring updates for 2019. You know, we have the new Trident Avenue, and then, you know, some other things that are fairly interesting. But the main thing I really want to talk about is the treasure call vault. This is definitely one of the things that I feel as it's a very disappointing thing that it's not a thing. Because for some reason they promoted this in the test realm, and now they also promoted it in the live realm. By the way, it's been a year since this has been out, and they still have this promoted. So I'm pretty sure once King's Out actually finds out about this video, if they ever even bother watching my videos, they're probably going to remove it. Just letting you know. So if you come back and saying, oh, I don't see this there, well, let me show you. So let me just, you know, show you that this actually exists if somehow King's Out just removes it. So you go to game updates, right? You know, you do this, and then you go to April 2019. You scroll down, and as you can see, the treasure call vault is still here. So just in case, if you're gonna be that one person that tells me, oh man, well, I didn't see it, well, I prove to you that it is a thing. It is in the live update notes right here. Like, I don't think there's enough proof for me to show you that it is still a thing until maybe somehow someone figures it out and removes it entirely. But the thing I wanted to talk about this is as to number one, which is the easiest thing to talk about, is how exactly can you store treasure cards. That's the one main thing that maybe some people don't know about, which is the most obvious thing, but maybe some people just don't know. Number two, as to what exactly is a reason as to why the treasure call vault isn't a thing in the first place. And number three, would there be a chance that we'll see this again? I mean, that's definitely a possibility. But to answer the first question, the way that you store TC is you usually just get decks with a fairly big sideboard. It could be in the bazaar, could just be farmed. I mean, I just recommend bazaar because it's the easiest. You just buy those decks, and then just fill all those treasure cards that you don't need at the moment to your sideboards on those decks, and that's how you store TC. That's one way. The second way is by having a side account hold all those TC, considering that they all hold like about 1,000 TC per character. So that's another way you can do it. But the thing about this is that updates like these are essentially quality of life updates. And if I can give like a good example, let's say for some reason like Amazon does like 2-hour shipping. Like, you know, let's say you just order something and it's like within the US, like, because, you know, let's just say you're in the US, and, you know, they just go to like the nearest game store, like, hey, I'm gonna get this, and then they already have it, they just send it to you within 2 hours. And let's say you had like someone like the slowest internet in the world, because with the slowest internet in the world, you can buy it online, but in order to download the game online, it's gonna take you up to like maybe 7 hours, you know, give or take. That's how some of my updates used to be, by the way, which is crazy. But let's say that you had that option, but you also had the option between Amazon where like you can just have it to where it's like a 2-hour shipping. So like within 2 hours it'll be right in front of your door, a physical copy that all you really have to do is like once you put the disc inside the console is just have it upload the data, which will probably take you maybe a couple minutes, just because at that point it's the hard drive, it's not internet. But if you were to choose between, if you wanted that 2-hour delivery for the physical copy and like a 7-hour download for the digital copy, well, you will obviously choose the physical copy because it's more convenient. You don't have to wait as long in order to get the game. The only thing you really have to worry about at that point is just uploading it to your console, which will probably take like a couple minutes, because at that point it just depends on your console rather than the internet. As if you were to get the digital version, then you have to wait like 7 hours just for it to download. And this is considering that, you know, it's consistent as well, because there will be moments that if you were trying to download a game, you could have like that moment where like you have an error and then you have to go right back to the download once again. So like obviously this is the same situation where it's convenience, because if I was to compare it to what I just compared before, well, you have the option of, you know, just having this as a crafted thing, or maybe something you buy at the crown shop, which will take you like a couple seconds if anything, and you'll just be able to just, you know, click on the icon and then just store all the TC that you want in there, and it will take like maybe a couple minutes, maybe a couple seconds at most. And compared to, you know, oh, I have to like create a new account, or I have to buy TC, which like, you know, fills up my backpack space. And in terms of like the side character, oh, I have to make sure that they're added, so you gotta do TFC or just add them within the game. And then not to mention it's gonna waste your friend space if you wanted to add more friends, so you have to remove them and then add them back again. You see kind of where I'm coming at as to like why the treasure call vault would have been an amazing thing, because it's convenient. That's the whole point. It's supposed to be convenient. And a lot of people, when I talk about the treasure call vault, it's like, oh, you could just do this, you could just do that. And it's like, yes, I get it, it's a thing, but like, it's convenience. It's all about convenience. And I feel like a lot of people tend to like misunderstand as to like how great it is to have something that's convenient. And we had this recently with like the friendship space or so, where like it's not even that recent, it's been like a while ago, but we had this with like the friendship space where you were able to just organize your friends by icons or by names or by schools, making it easier to find somebody. Or more recently, maybe something like the C vault and the gear vault, where instead of just like having it transfer to the shared bank and then just having like all your other, you know, 5 wizards out of 6, you know, put it in their banks, and then whenever you need it, you have to go back to those characters, put that in the shared bank, and you know, just mix and match every time. You just have a vault that carries everything for you. And it's great because convenience, that's the point. The treasure call vault was supposed to be made for convenience. And it's really disappointing that this wasn't necessarily a thing, for sure. But there are probably a few reasons as to why it was probably like this. The main 2 reasons I feel like is because of stuff like the spell audit that we got recently, and also spell writing. And I think spell writing is the biggest one, because the thing about spell writing is before then you were able to enchant whatever was that was supposed to be within spell writing. You were able to enchant them, and if you were able to enchant like a bunch of them way before they decided that, hey, we want to make this as like a spell writing thing, you were able to like basically make like 999 of them. And if you were to be able to do that, you'll be able to transfer that to the treasure card vault and just keep it there and just make another batch of like 1,000 of that same treasure card. So that way you have like an endless supply of them. But as of right now, well, even if they made it the spell writing, if you were able to make it way before they even consider about spell writing, then you were able to have like a really good amount of them. And during the idea of the treasure call vault, that was definitely a possibility. Obviously it wasn't a possibility for every single spell, but for a majority of the spells it definitely was a possibility. So if this was a thing, then people would just keep going with, you know, making TC a chance of like every single spell from 1 pip to 2 pip spells, because that was really what the spell writing was as of right now. Eventually we'll go probably from 3, 4, 5, you know, so on and so on. But it essentially would defeat the purpose of what spell writing was, which is to put a little bit more value in terms of like deck building and have the idea of being able to have somewhat more powerful spells in exchange for being able to remove the ability to make treasure cards out of it. And this is just because of, you know, just there's so much factors in terms of as to why it was a thing. But essentially the developers wanted to remove TC enchants altogether. There was a little outrage about it, so they brought it back. But then that's when they introduced the idea of spell writing, because they wanted to give players, you know, some better spells, but in exchange you can't enchant them anymore. So there's like so many things I could probably talk about that in the future video for sure. It might even be like an analytical video, but that's part of the reason as to why the treasure call vault isn't a thing. The second reason will probably be the spell audit, and this probably goes the same way as the treasure call vault, because if you didn't really know about, oh, they're gonna probably change these spells, well, you could have done the same thing where, like, you could have just, like, let's say for example Ifrit, because Ifrit is definitely the biggest one, because I feel like if the treasure call vault was like a loophole to what the developers can do in terms of changing the TC, then they will definitely take advantage of this loophole. And I think that's why they didn't make it in the first place, because it could have possibly given chances to a loophole as to being able to keep TC that you're not supposed to keep in the first place and still be able to use them in PvP. Because with Ifrit, the change that they did is that, yes, they lowered the damage a little bit, but it was mainly just the utility that they beat up a lot. And I feel like for a lot of people, especially like, you know, fire reasons obviously, they definitely, if they had the opportunity and they figured out that there was a loophole in terms of, like, you know, changing up treasure cards, and like let's say the treasure card vault was like the loophole to that, then they would have been able to make like 999, you know, Ifrit TC, put it in the treasure card vault, make another like whole batch just so they can keep it for like a long period of time, and they'll be able to use a broken TC that is damage enchanted with the same weakness, just because of the fact that there was a possible chance that this probably was a loophole to a lot of changes within spells in a TC format. And that's really like the only thing I can think of in terms as to why I think the treasure card vault isn't a thing. I feel like developers probably thought and maybe even speculated that this will probably cause a lot of loopholes for a lot of changes, because it could be like a coding thing to where it'll have to take them a little bit longer to make some changes, you know, just to make it align well with the treasure call vault, so that people don't take advantage of such loopholes that the treasure call vault might actually introduce. And it's unfortunate, but at the same time I do understand as to why they did what they did. And as much as I'm really disappointed about it, and I wish there was transparency with this, I feel like they did probably talk about it, maybe on Twitter, maybe on the live stream. Let me know if they did, because I would really love to see their statement. But personally, I feel like those are the two main reasons as to why the treasure call vault isn't a thing. It was mainly just because of the fact that there could be some possible loopholes to what the treasure call vault might bring in terms of like spell changes. So it's either through spell writing or the spell audit that they probably just didn't want to take the chance. So that's essentially what I have for today. And I know it's a fairly long rant, I know, but I'm really passionate about this treasure call vault because I really wish that it was a thing, but like I kind of can see as to why it wasn't a thing. You know, it's been a year now and it's still not a thing, so I could probably see as to why it's not a thing still. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't, and always remember to stay frenzy. Peace.